separating the wood from the trees, fact from fiction, clearing paths through forests of data, science, and deliberate confusion. The world is heating up so fast, we can't feel it. We've air-conditioned our survival instincts, lost our moral compass. It's not natural selection, it's self-selection. We choose information to fit our worldview. Can we find our way out of the forest? Nothing stands still. Innovation propels us forward, but as we innovate, as we learn, are we using our knowledge and technology effectively, or is green tech drowning in a sea of oil? Is Europe leading or following America on climate action, fossil fuels, renewable energy? Is the land of the free a market of delusion when it comes to oil and gas? Is energy the greatest market failure the world has ever seen?
The revenue from digging new oil, the revenue from digging new gas, the revenue from using coal, the return of invest is much, much higher than the return of invest on renewables. I had an interesting discussion with the manager of Statoil. Statoil has all the technology to move big into offshore wind, but the benefits are much, much bigger to stay in oil and gas and to move only slowly. So they buy patents, they buy potential competitors.
First of all, it's lack of imagination. I mean, they are in a business which they've been doing now for 100 years and they keep on doing it. They have difficulties of thinking out of their business model. But I think the other big problem is, of course, they invested in all kind of reserves and they need to get it out. So they put a lot of money in, and at a certain moment it becomes a perpetuum mobile, where they need to invest, get it out, and need that money to reinvest. And that model is a kind of self-inflating, and that's what you see exactly with these companies.
Still today, the bonuses which are being paid to CEOs such as Shell, Total, many others, ExxonMobil, these are linked to the success that these guys can prove they've achieved in finding and developing new oil and gas fields. So they have a direct interest to keep going, to keep digging deeper into the fossil fuel system. And I think the second reason in conjunction with this is that we are seeing huge subsidies paid out every year to fossil fuel exploration. According to a recent report by the International Monetary Fund, fossil fuels are getting $5 trillion every year. That's more than what is being paid under healthcare around the world. So in those circumstances, it's very difficult to give up the addiction.
Naomi Klein, writing in This Changes Everything, states that oil and gas companies remain some of the most profitable corporations in history, with the top 5 oil companies pulling in over $900 billion in profits from 2001 to 2010. ExxonMobil, she says, still holds the record for the highest corporate profits ever recorded in the United States, earning $41 billion in 2011 and $45 billion in 2012. Klein argues these companies are rich because they have dumped the cost of cleaning up their mess onto regular people around the world. Are we likely to import American-style energy politics through TTIP?
No, also because at the end I think TTIP will be defeated. TTIP is too much an interference with democracy. TTIP is not a battle Europe against US, it's a battle citizens in Europe and in US against happy few multinationals, often the very same who destroy the planet.
According to a study by the Center for American Progress, just 4% of the Big Five's $100 billion in combined profits in 2008 went to renewable and alternative energy ventures. And even as the demand for renewables increases, the percentage the fossil fuel companies spend on them keeps shrinking. By 2011, most of the major corporations were spending less than 1% of their overall expenditures on alternative energy. A lot of energy companies have sustainable energy section and the fossil section as well. How do they develop a business model along those lines?
Well, that's where I see a lot of hope actually over the next years and decades. Because if you look at companies like Enel in Italy or Dong in Denmark, there is an increasing rivalry between their green power division and their fossil fuel division, with the green power people often being a lot more ambitious than than pure renewable energy advocates, for example. They see the future, they want to go straight towards it. At the same time, they're being held up by their fossil fuel rivals within the company who have an old mindset and who are determined in sticking as long as we can with the current fossil fuel system.
The excuse of transition can keep you into a fossil gridlock for a very long time. And I think also the investors, also the shareholders, they are too often looking at short-term solutions. They want short-term gains on their shares. And then they see, well, the biggest gains we expect at least, which is also not true, by the way, but they expect it from what we've been doing until now. So also the shareholders don't have this long-term perspective, unfortunately.
How do you look ahead into the future? What is there to expect? What do you have to take into account in your new strategies? We're moving to more digital. How do you combine your data more accurately, quicker, to make better discussions and better decisions for future use?
In the German power market over the last 10 years, 95% of all investments have been done outside the energy establishment. So E.ON, RWE, Vattenfall, EnBW have only 5% of the billions of renewable investments. It's citizens, farmers, small and medium enterprise.
Research shows that the drill baby drill crew know what's happening. They just think it can't be fixed. So in their view, it's everyone for themselves. That means the richer you are, the better your chances of surviving rising temperatures, rising tides, and collapsing societies. In the macho world of fossil fuels, investing in renewables might just be lipstick on a survival strategy which smells really bad for the environment.
First of all, they of course build on the issue of energy security, which is now, the new game in town, certainly vis-à-vis Russia and Putin. So if you want to be energy secure, then suddenly shale gas becomes more interesting. Secondly, of course, they always flag this energy price issue in the US, which is far lower than in the EU. We all know that the higher price in the EU is because of other issues and mainly because of a split market. So a united EU is the best solution, but that's of course not what the industry is lobbying for.
When it comes to issues like this, there is a need for leadership as well as taking direction from what your constituents or the public at large may be thinking. And it's actually quite difficult because when it comes to issues of science-based evidence, there is a lot of information that will be in front of parliamentarians that isn't necessarily being presented, particularly technical issues, to the wider public at large.
Which came first, the law or the lobbyist? Pitching for battle in Europe's energy wars, American law firm Dentons has fired up its Brussels lobbying efforts with point man Newt Gingrich, a man so ethical as Speaker of the House, he pursued Bill Clinton's impeachment of the Monica Lewinsky scandal while enjoying the quiet advice of his own mistress.
This shale gas bubble is also about to burst, and the companies in that business are also having difficulties at the moment. That's also why they want to go into new markets like Europe.
So saying that gas should replace coal and this is a solution to climate change is a bit like saying filter cigarettes are a solution to lung cancer.
We know that, for example, on their activities on shale gas, they are absolutely interested to go into a new market in Europe. And they know there are some countries in Europe interested in shale gas. So it's very clear that a lot of these American companies into shale gas are absolutely looking into the European market and therefore are very favorable to TTIP.
I think they are curious of what we are doing, and I think they are coming to Brussels quite often. I met a lot of American representatives from many well-known energy companies and also from the government side in the parliament, in the European institutions, talking with people and participating in debates. I think the curiosity goes both ways.
Gingrich's appointment is just part of a geopolitical trend uniting former international adversaries as in-house advisors. A partner at Dentons is a former Russian diplomat, Eduard Borovikov. According to Politico, Dentons is lead lawyer for Russian energy giant Gazprom, while Gerhard Schröder, former German Chancellor, is chairman of the shareholders committee of Gazprom's Nord Stream consortium.
We're seeing gas and coal interests fighting in a really bitter way over dwindling market shares. For example, it was extremely interesting to see the CEO of Gas Naturally, a lobby group here in Brussels, say that coal has no future because it depends on CCS, which itself is not happening. And this is fascinating development because, of course, exactly the same argument applies to gas.
Is Europe falling under the financial spell of energy lobbyists, or does Europe differ from the United States, favouring scientific debate over political rhetoric? Is the climate debate an ideological debate in Europe like it is in America?
No, I think in Europe it's very science-based. There's very few people who are denying climate. I think a climate denier, that's somebody like in the Middle Age, those who said, no, the Earth is flat, whereas Galileo had already shown that it's not flat. So it's a negative sense, a religion, anti-climate religion, sects. So for me, from Europe, it's very difficult to understand.
Our public is not minded to be persuaded in the way that people in the US have moved, and the lobbyists there have been operating in a very different way as well. Here within Europe, we do have what I would call a minority movement that is still pushing in terms of climate change denial, trying to get their arguments across, but the public are not being swayed by those arguments.
George Orwell wrote, "People sleep peaceably in their beds at night, only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf." This is the unpalatable reality for the West. We eat, sleep, and go to work in comfort, without thinking too long about the price that is paid to keep our lonely planet rotating. There are solutions to global warming, but we are asleep. There is prosperity, job creation, and better health in climate action. But the longer it takes for us to wake, the harder the task will be.